Good evening, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Rob Harris. Tonight, we're going to be talking about poverty here in our community and around the globe. It's our hope that this discussion will give us a better insight into this terrible issue. But above that, it's our hope that it humanizes it. Poverty is an issue that too often leaves its victims feeling swallowed up, isolated, forgotten. It's more than statistics on a page and a word in a political speech. Our discussion tonight will hopefully help us to understand the way poverty impacts us and those around us. It'll also hopefully recognize the Zags that are giving back and making a difference in their community. But above all, it will hopefully help us to understand what exactly we can do to make a difference moving forward. This is the Think Tank on GUTV.
Fate.
Welcome, I'm Rob Harris, host of tonight's Think Tank. Tonight, I'll be joined by Catholic Charities Spokane Executive Director and the Head Coordinator of Homeless Outreach here on Gonzaga's campus. We'll also hear from GU's Vice President of Mission. But before we delve into tonight's discussion, our social media producer, Claudia Marmolejo, is in the tweet suite. Claudia, how are viewers contributing to the conversation tonight?
Well, Rob, I've been following our hashtag Zags Give Back campaign over the past week, and it's been amazing to see how the Gonzaga community has been making a difference. Now, let's check out some of our submissions that we received. Our first one comes from Amanda. She says, I'm a foster care provider. It's so hard and so good and so hard, and we hope to give the babies a chance at a better future. Hashtag Zags Give Back. Our next one comes from Bree, and she says, hashtag Zags Give Back, cleaning up an empty lot in downtown Spokane and adding art around it. Well, thank you, Amanda and Bree, for your submissions. Now, throughout the show, I'm going to be monitoring, so keep sending us pictures and your stories with the hashtag Zags Give Back. And also, send us your questions for our panel at our Facebook or Twitter at GUTV Zags. Back to you, Rob.
Thanks, Claudia. Yesterday afternoon, I sat down with Gonzaga University Vice President of Mission, Father Frank Case. For the Jesuits in particular, social justice is a key part of their ministry and living out their calling. Take a look. Father Case, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I'd like to start off the interview by reading something you've probably heard many times, a portion of Gonzaga's mission. The Gonzaga experience fosters a mature commitment to dignity of the human person, social justice, diversity, intercultural competence, global engagement, solidarity with the poor and vulnerable, and care for the planet. Grateful to God, the Gonzaga community carries out this mission with responsible stewardship of our physical, financial, and human resources. How do you think we're doing with that?
These are ideals that we hold out for. We hope that the students who graduate from here will graduate with those commitments. I think our students are getting a lot of exposure to the global scene. The summer projects in Zambia, for example, would be one. But even here in the city, the work that they do with the House of Charities and numerous other things. So through Castle is doing a lot of community service, but also the student athletes have their own program for service, and the math students tutor kids on Saturday, and so there's an awful lot of outreach into the community, which I think is really good.
In what way has working with the poor impacted you personally?
I did. I think my really neat experience that I had was when in 1979 I was here in Spokane doing my last year of Jesuit formation. And part of that was to do some experiments, doing a kind of work that you wouldn't be involved in necessarily. So I went down and helped in the House of Charities 3 times a week, I believe it was. It was Sister Maria Francis who was the kind of the head of this little team that we'd go visit the people in their apartments or their rooms and stuff like that. Well, these, I grew to love these people. They have, most of them were active or recovering alcoholics, but there was a deep sense of human decency to them. And one of the fellows was Good Friday.
Great interview with a great guy. You can really tell how much he cares for other people when you interact with him. When we come back, I'll be joined by Rob McCann, Executive Director of Catholic Charities Spokane, and Emily Pierre, Head Coordinator of Homeless Outreach here at Gonzaga. We'll be talking about their experiences working with the poor and some of the ways that we can all make a difference. So stick around. You're watching The Think Tank on GUTV.
Hey Zags, my name is Melanie Williamson and I'm the Director of Communications for GSBA this year. What is GSBA, you ask? Well, we are a student-run organization where our primary goal is to serve our fellow students while maintaining and creating meaningful relationships with organizations on campus just like GUTV. GSBA elections are approaching quickly and now is the time to take part in a leadership role on campus. While you're reminiscing about your Friday night fast food binges or fun activities, you can actually be a part of this awesome opportunity to actually create these events on campus or in our community. From Senate to class officers to executive positions, we have it all. We hit the ground running with GSBA elections starting February 16th, and I highly encourage you to run for a position. I've had the opportunity here at Gonzaga to serve on GSBA and make an impact, now you can too. Please stop by Upper Crosby, which is our office, and you can ask us questions or learn more information about elections. Thanks and go Zags.
Hi, how are you? Good. How are you?
Good.
How are you? Good.
Hi.
Good. Hi.
How are you? Good.
Hi.
How are you? Good.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
No, really. How are you?
Well, I'm studying for 2 tests I have tomorrow, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm going on a mountaineering trip, and that's going to be so much fun. We have to leave at 4.
Poor people gonna rise up, get their share. Poor people gonna rise up and take what's theirs.
Welcome back to the Think Tank. Joining us now, assuming we don't cut them off with our open, are Rob McCann, Executive Director of Catholic Charities Spokane, and Emily Pierre, Head Coordinator of Homeless Outreach here at Gonzaga. Thank you so much for being here, both of you.
Great to be here.
I'd like to start off the conversation by just listing some facts for you. 15% of Americans live in poverty, 22% of children. Nearly half of the world's population, more than 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. More than 1.3 billion live on less than $1.25 a day. 1 billion children worldwide are living in poverty, according to UNICEF, and 22,000 die each day. 870 million people worldwide don't have enough to eat, and more than 1 billion don't have enough clean water to drink. That's over 400 million children. How does that strike you?
Well, for me, if you believe that every single human being is made in the image and likeness of God and they deserve respect and dignity and compassion, you can't be okay with those numbers. And I think that we live in a world that has a lot of issues, has a lot of challenges. Those numbers kind of represent the fire that's burning, the fire of poverty. And it sometimes is very frustrating and can be destructive. But there's hope in there too, because you have folks like GU students who step up and say, hey, it's my turn to hold the hose. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Emily does.
Like Emily Pierre. How about you?
Yeah, well, what strikes me about those facts is that I believe there is enough food to go around. It's just not distributed evenly and correctly. So like here at Gonzaga, Campus Kitchens takes unused food from the dining hall and makes that into meals that they give to about 7 different charities around Spokane. And I was able to participate in that through a class here. And so I think it's more about allocating those resources better, and that's something that we can work on and can do, and we are doing here at Gonzaga.
Do you think the students know about all of the programs we have going on?
I don't think a lot of students know about the magnitude and the impact that our Campus Kitchens here does. I don't think everyone really understands what an impact they're making on the community here, especially with the donations we give to Catholic charities of meals.
How many people are involved? How many students are involved?
I'm not sure. I would say maybe about 30 or so.
Rob, do you have GU students come work with you at Catholic Charities?
You know, we couldn't do the work at Catholic Charities without GU and GU students. We have an army of volunteers, literally an army. We have about 6,000 volunteers at Catholic Charities, and a good chunk of those are GU students. They fill roles that are essential to the organization and to our ability to reach out to people who are poor and vulnerable and fragile and say, hey, we're here to help you. Come with me. Let's make you a more stable person. GU students do that for us in just about every program at Catholic Charities, and we have 15 programs in 38 locations, and we serve 77,000 different people every year. And we could not do that without GU students. There's no doubt in my mind at all about that.
What do you think it is about Gonzaga that galvanizes its students so much?
You know, for me, that's an easy answer. This whole idea of Ignatian spirituality, this Jesuit education, you've got a guy like St. Ignatius Loyola who said people should be in service to others. They should be people for others. They should be contemplatives in action. That is running through the very veins of this university. I see it in Gonzaga students that are volunteering in our programs every day. It's not just a flowery mission statement that's framed on the wall of the ad building. This is the real thing. I see students who believe that, they breathe it, they love it. And it's why they do what they do. And for them, serving the poor and serving the at-risk and the most vulnerable people, they feel like they're programmed to do that just because their heart's telling them to. And I think that's something that's a learned behavior, and I think it's something that's taught really, really well here at Gonzaga University.
So Emily, how did you get involved with homeless outreach?
Well, I participated in Reality Camp as an incoming freshman. It's a pre-orientation program we do different service events throughout Spokane. And so doing that, we spent a night at House of Charity and were able to have breakfast with the clients there the next morning. And I sat down and talked with the guy, and he just told me his life story. He opened up, and I learned that he had a work-related injury that caused him to lose his job. He was no longer able to work. And so after losing his job, his wife and his family left him. So he had no sort of support system. And that's kind of how he ended up being a client at House of Charity. And what struck me about that is that a lot of stigmas around homelessness are that people are lazy, that they are homeless by choice, that they are just trying to take advantage of free resources. And with this guy, I could tell, like, he didn't have a choice. He didn't have a support system to help him out when he needed it the most. And I think that's something that I take for granted, and probably a lot of other Gonzaga students do as well. And so by hearing his story and seeing a different kind of perspective that kind of broke some of the stereotypes, I was really inspired to be involved working with that population.
And so going off that perception of the lazy homeless person, Rob, I wonder if you could talk about some of the different contributions that can lead someone to be stuck in poverty.
You know, there's so many factors that lead someone to be in poverty and to be a Catholic Charities client. What we know from data, from research, is that the main causes of poverty tend to be intergenerational, which means they're basically passed down from one family member to the next. We see a lot of people who are in poverty and in chaos and suffering because of something that happened to them between birth and age 5 that should never happen to any child. We call that an adverse childhood experience, or an ACE. The other factor that we see quite a bit of that leads to poverty is untreated or undertreated mental health issues, untreated or undertreated substance abuse issues. Those things are what combine together into this perfect storm that takes someone's life from stability to chaos. And once you get trapped in that cycle, it's very difficult to get out without someone to give you a helping hand.
The United States is often at the very bottom of the list of industrialized nations in terms of its poverty rates. I wonder if either of you guys have any insights as to why that may be.
Well, one thing, and not based on any data, but it seems to me if mental health is one of the leading causes for people to find themselves in a situation where they're in poverty, I think that our country has a hard time talking about mental health issues. Yeah. And so if we were to address those, maybe we would solve some of the problems of poverty and other problems as well.
Have you interacted with someone who you've seen improve their lives in the case of mental illness? Either of you, actually.
Well, yeah, I see that every day. I'm blessed to be able to see that every day. We have a lot of clients who just need someone to talk to, just need someone to share their experience with. You mentioned earlier that someone just kind of told you their story, and for them, that was therapeutic. For them, that was transformative. It changed their life that day. That was a level of respect and compassion that that person probably didn't get from anyone else that day, or maybe even that week. Those are the kinds of things that people need, especially with mental health, is someone to talk to, someone to say, hey, I care about you, tell me your life story, and let's see what we can do to make that story have a better ending.
And then advocate for them on TV.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll hear from our social media producer, Claudia Marmolejo, and we'll talk with our panelists about how we can positively give back to those in need. All of this and more, so stick around. You're watching The Think Tank on GUTV.
My schoolwork keeps me pretty busy here.
Lots of theater.
I work in a Merle, so that's every night from like 4 to 11.
Spending time with my friends and then club volleyball.
But if you had the chance, what would you do more?
I wish I could sleep more.
I just want to try and get more involved as much as I can.
Honestly, I wish I could have done more service in my time here.
But it's never too late to give back, give more, and volunteer.
Welcome back to Think Tank on GUTV. I'm Claudia Marmolejo, and throughout the show, I've been reading your submissions with the hashtag ZagsGiveBack. Let's check them out. This one comes from JM Cross. She says, our grandchildren, Anthony, Abby, and Ava, participate in their school food drive to help the needy. Hashtag ZagsGiveBack. Awesome. Our next one comes from Ashley. She says, the best part of my day is volunteering with the Boys and Girls Club and interacting with the kids. Hashtag ZagsGiveBack. That's awesome, you guys. Thank you for all the submissions. And if you want to see more, go to our Twitter at GUTVZags. Now, at the beginning of the show, we asked you to ask questions for our panel. And one of our questions was, first, how do you measure poverty? Second, how do you measure success in helping people out of poverty? My experience is it takes a human element to achieve success in eliminating poverty. Money alone will not do it. Do you have any programs in your area that have attained a high success rating? All right, thank you, Tammy. That's a good question. Let's see what our panel thinks.
So Rob, I would start with you on that question. What kinds of things does Catholic Charity Spokane do, other than financial assistance, that has made a big difference for the people you serve?
A lot of our programs kind of reach people where they're at. We have a lot of housing programs for seniors, farm workers, the disabled, developmentally delayed adults, families, chronically homeless. But we also have homeless shelters, as Emily mentioned. And then we have a lot of mental health programming and programs, for instance, that serve about 4,000 pregnant teens every year in Eastern Washington. So we kind of run the spectrum from cradle to grave at Catholic Charities in terms of trying to help people where they're at, meet them where they're at, and kind of transform their lives.
Emily, I'm guessing most college students don't have a lot of money to contribute, so what are the ways that the students involved in Castle give back?
Well, as Rob mentioned earlier, sometimes it just means a lot to sit down with someone and have a conversation. I mean, if I didn't have someone to just talk to every day, I would really miss that. And so what we do as part of homeless outreach is on Saturdays we go to House of Charity and we just hang out with the clients there. We're not the ones serving the meals, we're not there with a specific agenda, we're just there to connect with people. And that goes along with our mission of our program, which is to demarginalize and connect with members of the homeless population, and we think that it's more important to do that through forming those connections with people and talking to them and hearing their stories than by serving the meal where you're behind the counter and still on different sides. When we're just sitting down and talking with people, we're all on the same level. We're just friends hanging out and having a conversation. And that's what I really love about going to House of Charity every week. I've made friends with some of the clients down there, and I look forward to going and seeing if they're going to be around that day to catch up with them.
What's a particularly meaningful conversation you've had with someone you interacted with?
One week when I was there serving dinner, afterwards we went and talked to some people, and I talked with a man named Douglas, and we were talking about what Easter was coming up, and I was saying how my parents still hide Easter eggs for us, and he said his parents never did that. They just told him the Easter Bunny isn't real. And I was kind of shocked that he had never had the Easter Bunny growing up, but he said, you know what, I had a great childhood. I had a great life. Even though I am homeless, it doesn't mean I don't have a great life. And that really stuck with me because sometimes I think people have the idea that people who are in poverty aren't having a great life and they are not enjoying their life. And he really still enjoys his life, even though his lifestyle is so very different than mine.
And I wonder if hopelessness can itself be a contributing factor to the vicious cycle of poverty.
I think there's no doubt about that. I think that someone's outlook on life and their hope for their own future is integral to their image of themselves. It's integral to where they think they're going to be tomorrow or the next day and what they have to fight for in the world. And for most people, that human connection is the solution for hopelessness. And as you were saying, I mean, the reality is for a lot of people, it's not necessarily what you do for them or what you give them. It's that precious presence, just sitting with someone and talking to them and being present with them in a way that maybe no one else is going to do with them that day. And that alone, I think, can really combat hopelessness as much as anything. Is just that human connection, that ability to say, you know, I'm a human being, I'm valued, I'm worthy of connection, and someone's going to offer that to me.
Giving them dignity above everything else. I think we've all been presented with the conundrum of seeing the person asking for money on the side of the road and not knowing what to do. I'm wondering if you can give us insight into ways that can give back that might be more hurtful than helpful.
I'm going to answer that one because I got something to say about that. Okay. You know, I tell people all the time, please don't give panhandlers money. Okay. You're doing the community and that person a great disservice. The vast majority of panhandlers in our community here in Spokane are actually not even homeless. They live in SROs downtown, and the money that they collect is feeding a very terrible and trapping addiction and cycle of substance abuse. It's a much better use of your resources to pick your favorite charity and donate some funds there. But when you hand that dollar bill out the window of your car, although it might make you feel better at the moment, you're actually putting that person further into a cycle of poverty and suffering and substance abuse.
So what ways can someone know what charities are responsible with their money? I know there's websites, but I don't know if they work on a local level.
Charity Navigator is about the best one out there. It'll rank pretty much any social service agency. But a lot of it, too, is just getting to know your community and getting to know what agencies are out there. That's why organizations like Castle really are so great, because they really have their finger on the pulse of all the social service agencies in town, and they're all very good. And they can point you in the right direction depending on what area of need you're interested in serving.
So I wonder if you prefer financial contributions or time contributions from those who are looking to give back?
Volunteer every time. I'd rather have someone's time and their heart and their soul than their check. Because if you can get someone to volunteer at House of Charity like you've done, what happens is they'll fall in love with it. They'll be a volunteer forever, and then down the road, if they've got a couple extra bucks, they'll give it to you every time. But I tell people all the time, I'd much rather have you as a volunteer than have your check, which drives my fundraising director crazy when I do that. But it's the reality.
I wonder if you have any like concrete experiences of people, volunteers, who have been impacted and changed by working with you.
I like to think that every volunteer at Catholic Charities has some kind of transformative experience. You can't immerse yourself into the lives of people who are suffering, or into House Charity or St. Margaret's or St. Anne's, without having some kind of emotive response to that, without having some kind of a moment at the end of that where you ask yourself some hard questions. Why is the condition like that? Why are those kids hungry? What can we do institutionally in our world to make that different, to advocate for better policies and better laws? And I think every volunteer at Catholic Charities, in some respect, hopefully has that experience. We want people to be on the front lines and boots in the mud helping folks, and that's important, but we want them to go away from that and take that home with them, and take that to their voting polls, and take that to their family dinner tables, and take it to every part of their professional lives, because that's where the big change is going to be affected.
So what ways can viewers, and particularly GU students, start giving back right now?
Well, we're always looking for more volunteers with the Homeless Outreach Program. Like I said, on Saturdays we've been at House of Charity just connecting with people, and I think it's really fun. It's a really great experience just to sit down and have a conversation with someone new, and kind of hear their story and see what they've been through and get to know them.
What skills make you good at interacting with the impoverished community?
Sometimes people don't want to talk to you, and you have to just be okay with that. Not everyone's going to open up, but more often than not, you'll find a gem, someone who really wants to talk to you. And people have told me all of their plans and ideas and dreams, and a lot of the guys down there have ideas for helping other people get out of poverty, which I find is really amazing. That's where their brain power is going. That's what they're thinking about. And just getting a chance to connect with them. So yeah, just being open to conversation and hearing different things, hearing about lifestyles different than your own.
Did you feel uncomfortable at first when you participated in these programs?
Yeah, the first time. The first time I was there, I was just an incoming freshman. Didn't really know which way was up in Spokane. But I've been volunteering at House of Charity so long now, I feel comfortable there. Go in and say hi to my friends. And
how do you think you can make volunteers feel more comfortable if this might be their first time interacting with a homeless person?
I think what Gonzaga and Castle do better than any other group of volunteers I see anywhere in the Catholic Charity system is this intentional debrief and kind of spiritual component afterwards. When you spend your first shift at the House of Charity, probably when you spent your first shift, when you were done with that, you probably had a bunch of questions and a bunch of things that you were thinking, and you probably wanted to share that with someone. And I think Gonzaga provides the students an ability to do that. I've been part of those debrief sessions over the years, and including with first-time volunteers, and it's amazing their perception of the poor and how that changes just after one experience, after one moment of that precious presence. So, I think that's a big part of how to kind of de-escalate and demystify the volunteer experience, because some of those situations are pretty intense. House of Charity is an intense place, but so is changing a poopy diaper at St. Anne's. So, no matter what you're doing, you're going to get knee deep in it, and you're going to want to talk about it when you're done.
So really quick, I just want to hear your aha moment. If you could just say like one sentence of this is when it all made sense to me.
I guess one for me would be with my friend Douglas I told you about earlier. After I had that first conversation with him, I had told him that I studied abroad in Australia, and I was going to leave, and he goes, "Do they hug in Australia?" And I said, yeah, and I gave him a hug, and it was just kind of solidified our connection that we had made over that conversation. And so just knowing how much he appreciated me taking the time to just sit and talk to him and listen to him kind of made it click for me.
and we're all out of time, but I want to thank you both so much for coming here and for sharing your insights. I'd like to thank Father Frank Case for sitting down with me yesterday, and make sure you tune in next Wednesday at 5 o'clock for GU This Week. And from all of us here at GUTV, good night.